If you want to learn about domain name sales and negotiations, why not go directly to the broker who facilitated the world record sale of Sex.com for $13 million? That's today's show. Stay tuned. 3 messages before today's show. First, if you're a domain name investor, don't you have unique legal needs that require domain name technical know-how and industry experience? That's why you need David Westlow of Wiley Ryan. Go search for David Westlow on Domain Sherpa, watch his interviews, and you can see for yourself that he is intelligent and articulate, can help you with buy-sell agreements, deal with website content issues and UDRP actions, and can even help you write your website terms and conditions. David Westlow is the lawyer to call for all your internet and intellectual property needs. See for yourself at newmediaip.com. Second, when you have questions about domain names, where should you go to ask them? The answer is dnforum.com. Not only is DN Forum the largest domain name forum in the world, but it's the best. You can learn about domain names in the industry, buy and sell domain names, talk about domain name news, and meet other domainers just like yourself. Register for a free DN Forum account and begin advancing your skills and knowledge today. And when you do sign up, send me a friend request so we can connect. My ID is Domain Sherpa. Finally, whenever I'm thinking of buying or selling a domain name, the very first place I go is estabat.com. Their service provides quick and comprehensive information about the valuation and the critical factors that you need to know about, like other extensions that are reserved, recent sales, search volume, and cost per click rates on search engines. And if you haven't tried their lead generator service for domains you want to sell, you're missing one of the most powerful tools around. Those are the reasons I pay for the service every month. Here's your program. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the website where you come to learn how to become a successful domain name investor and entrepreneur directly from the experts. Sex.com entered the Guinness Book of World Records for the highest domain-only sale in history. It was sold by Escom LLC to Clover Holdings Limited in 2010 and was brokered by today's guest, Vice President of Sales at DomainNameSales.com, Jeff Gabriel. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
Nice to be here.
It's great to have you. What did it feel like to get agreement from both parties on the sale of Sex.com for $13 million?
It was an exciting day. I mean, it wasn't just myself working on it. It was a team of us doing it together. And when the parties, if I recall, came together and came to an agreement, it took many months, a lot of potential buyers, a lot of different offers, and that wasn't the first offer, and it actually wasn't the highest. There was another offer that was made that was a few $1 million higher, but it was paid over time. And since it was a bankruptcy, the court has a job to do to get as much cash as possible. I think if it was another type of sale or another situation, we could potentially have a different number out there, but nonetheless, it was a very proud moment. It was a lot of excitement, but at the same time, there's a lot of other sales that were just as exciting. And you know, it's not just about the number; it's just doing the job that you're hired to do. So,
how could it not be about the number? Come on, Jeff. $13 million and a world record that goes in the Guinness book. That's got to feel pretty good, right? Like, when you got agreement, were you still nervous that the deal could fall through? Because, yeah, you got agreement, but it needs to go through all the legal ramifications, and they actually need to have the money transferred and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I think anyone who has experience in any level of sales knows that it's not over until it's over. And when everyone made the agreement as to the price, it wasn't push it over to escrow.com and you're going to pay and this and done and everybody's out. It was another, I'd probably say, 2 months of negotiating the contract, how the money is going to be handled, and some other details having to do with the court and them accepting that offer. So, you know, the sales portion was done, but then the contracts and then actually paying, where $13 million is one heck of a lot of money. So yeah, it was very exciting, but it was I think a little more exciting to know that it was over when the money was finally in and
Yeah.
the domain was transferred.
And when the money finally transferred over and you were notified by whomever was doing the escrow, um, was that a load off your shoulders? Was that like did you pump your fist? Did you go out for drinks? What happened that day?
Oh, that was a fun day. The team at Cito gave me the chance. I got to actually click the button to finish the transfer, so that was fun. And then that night, I took everybody out to the bar, everyone that we work with together, who was involved with Sex.com and who wasn't. So we went out to a local bar, and drinks were on me. So it was definitely a fun night, and it was a big load off my shoulders, a team's shoulders. But it was, a huge sense of accomplishment. And at that time, I wasn't really thinking about it being a world record. I was more that I, had the opportunity. I was grateful for it. I was grateful to Cito and the team that helped me sell it. And, I wanted to think about the next one right after it, and just get going. But yeah, there was a lot of celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you represent the buyer, the seller, both in the transaction?
We represented the seller.
Okay.
Escom was our client in that transaction.
Okay. And with so many high value transactions under non-disclosure agreement, why was this one public?
Well, it's quite simple. Anything that goes to the bankruptcy court is public information. If anyone goes into bankruptcy, you can go down to the courthouse where the bankruptcy takes place, and you can pull the whole case. And obviously, this was a high profile case, and there's reporters such as yourself combing these courthouses and whatever online databases are there, and seeing what juicy information is coming out every day. So, I think it was great for the industry that it is public, and I think it's great for both parties in general, so people can see that domain names are worth this kind of money. And going to that site today, you can see that they've put a great business on there, and it's definitely a unique and interesting way of developing it.
Yeah, I haven't been over there, just to point out, Jeff, but I'll do some research after the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So real estate brokers, like if I sold my house, real estate brokers typically earn 3% of the sale. So 3% to the seller broker, 3% to the buyer broker, and then those brokers typically split that 3% with the brokerage for providing the overhead. Do you remember what the commission percentage was for selling Sex.com as the seller's broker?
I do remember the commission, but I believe I'm not at liberty to say what it is. I'm under a non-disclosure for that one.
Okay,
but it was very generous and fair. But
can you say if it was more than 3%, what a typical real estate broker would make?
I think it was a very fair amount of money that was paid for the services we did. But you always wish you could make more.
Sure, fair enough. And did the buyers have a domain name broker that they used on their site as well?
No,
okay,
they did not.
Gotcha. So the sellers or the court or the trustee, I'm not sure what, hired your services to sell this high value asset. You went and found multiple buyers, and then you closed the deal with the one that had with the buyer that was mentioned that had the cash to do the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of potential suitors, large adult organizations, VC companies, and others that were nameless, that I've never heard of, or companies I've never heard of before that were interested in buying it. And there was a lot of different people that showed significant interest, but you never knew what their interest levels really were, and really just qualifying them, bringing them to the table to make offers, and explaining to some of these companies. A lot of the companies I talked to weren't just those in the adult industry, but for example, Pfizer was a company that I contacted, and I have a colleague who I grew up with who actually he just left there, but he worked in their global strategy. And at the same time, Pfizer's Viagra was coming off patent. So I was pitching it to them, saying, what a brilliant brand for you to have Sex.com. And they actually were considering it, but they didn't have enough time to turn around to actually make an offer and purchase it. So there's a lot of different uses for the name, and covering all that was definitely not a small task.
Yeah. Did you buy yourself anything as sort of a congratulations, I closed this big sale? Any toys, a new watch, a new car, new ring for your wife, anything like that?
Well, actually, around that time, no, I didn't. But shortly after, my wife and I got engaged. So I guess I did buy my wife a the engagement ring. Yeah, but I didn't. I'm not a very flashy person.
Yeah.
I enjoy the things that I enjoy in life is being with my family and my friends, and playing around a golf and just having a good time. And to me, that's all that matters. And I like making others happy. So I think my wife was pretty happy that day that we got engaged. So I'd say that was most important.
Excellent. What was the biggest domain name sale price you've ever closed? Was it sex.com for 13 million, or was there another one that was under non-disclosure that was more?
Sex.com is definitely the biggest one that I've ever done. I've heard some whispers in the industry of some that might have been bigger, but I've yet to see anything that's beaten it. I have been a part of some other multi-million dollar deals, and some of them were just as stressful, if not more, and were just as exciting. It's that rush that you get when you make a sale. I was telling somebody the month that I sold Sex.com, if I remember correctly, I also sold another domain for about $2,500, and I was, sale's a sale, I'll take it. When I talk to some of the new brokers at our company here, I tell them you got to be scrappy and volume. There's no deal too small, and just keep the volume and the wheels spinning, and you'll keep making sales, and the big ones come. It's just a numbers game. You just never stop.
Yeah. All right. Now I want to ask you about that. But the last question that I have in the intro, Jeff, is what were your personal total sales last year if you looked at them all in aggregate? Do you know the number offhand?
I really don't, to be honest with you, and I'll tell you why. When I was the president of Domain Advisors, our group and the focus there and the way we built the team is that we all worked together. So when we took on an exclusive name to sell, we'd sit around the table and talk about who has contacts where and how we can make that sale. And it wasn't about me and my numbers and someone else at the table. And there's like a 6 or 7 person company. And collectively, I can say, and I'm really proud to say this, is that we finished last year just a hair under 15 million. So for a little tiny brokerage that didn't really have any type of marketplace or any type of automated sales, it was just hard work and a little back end system. We just used Salesforce, and cold calling all day long. I was really proud of that and proud of the people I worked with, and I'd say all of us together we did right around 15 million.
15 million total volume.
15, not 50, 15.
Right, 15.
Yeah, 15.
15, 1-5.
Yeah, 1-5,
right.
not 5.
Total volume, not commissions from the sales.
Yeah, no, total volume.
Gotcha.
So yeah, if we did 50, 50, I'd have a lot more white hairs than this. So
you'd have as much as me.
yeah, probably.
Yeah, that was my first business right there. So, so it sounds like at Domain Advisors, you created a sales team that was much more collaborative, whereas some of the old school systems, you'd get a sales team and you'd pit one salesperson against another, and you'd have a ranking chart for every single week that shows how many calls are being made, how many emails are being made, who's got the total sales for the week, and they might get some sort of bonus. None of that was implemented by you over at Domain Advisors, it sounds like.
No, there was some, because salespeople are competitive, and right. You do see what others are selling, and but there was a lot of deals that ended up where two brokers, one was representing a buyer, one was representing a seller, occurred. There was a lot of deals that I didn't necessarily find the buyer or seller, but I found myself in it up to my neck because I'm the president. I'm helping with the contracts, the negotiations, the strategizing that happens behind the scenes, helping to find leads and other opportunities, or opening up my Rolodex, or calling around and asking for help. So, I didn't really keep that close attention to exactly what I was selling, even though I did sell a lot of names personally last year. I was worried about the people, the salespeople every day, helping them, and then selling some of my own too. So it was a big team, a group effort. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And I think it's really worked well for them. And I definitely didn't leave there on bad terms. They were all, I consider them awesome business people and great brokers.
Yeah. And so I want to ask you about that time and what you learned from from that time and prior. But just before I do that, it looks, for people that are watching this show and they're thinking, Jeff, that you're in the basement because it looks like there's maybe a gas line right behind you there over your left-hand shoulder, and there's sort of a power panel right behind you. You're not in the basement at domainnamesales.com in the Cayman Islands, are you?
No, I'm not. We have a side room. We call this, I guess, like the sales room because it's pretty soundproof and quiet in here. But out there in the other room, we have. I'll give you a little shot of it. There's some of the salespeople sitting there. We got about there's 11 brokers right now, and then we have two that are outsourced, so 13 of us that we're bringing to the market more and more brokers every day to increase our owned and operated portfolio sales and our partner sales, and we'd like to become one of the biggest and the best domain brokerages in the industry.
Excellent. Now I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that. If I can get you to just tilt the top down or back slightly. Nope, back the other way, Jeff. Perfect. All right. So I like to go back in time on the interviews, Jeff, to figure out how people got to where they are. You didn't just enter the domain name industry and sell a $13 million domain name as a team on day one. It takes a certain experience level and a certain level of learning to get there. What were you doing just before you entered the domain name industry?
Oh, well, that's a funny question. Before I got in the domain name business, I was selling loans. I was a loan officer for almost 5 years. And I also had my real estate license, and I sold a few homes as well. And that part of my life got to teach me a lot about contracts, buying and selling, moving deals throughout the sales process. And I think the domain brokerage business mirrors that business very closely. But the beauty of our business is there's not someone has to go and inspect the domain, or you're not waiting for an underwriter to approve financing. So the deals can go a lot faster. But the way of selling is similar, is creating value and getting people excited about something. I started to see the writing on the wall, but I ended up actually getting a job at a company called JobFox, which was a startup, similar to Monster. Uh-huh. And I worked there for just about a year. And the entire job market completely tanked, and the market failed. And this startup I started working for when I was employee about number 15 blossomed to about 200 people. We all had stock. We were all going to retire by the age of 30. And it went from about 200 employees to about 10 in one afternoon.
Wow. So that was 2008 or 2009?
I think it was about 2008. 2008. And when that occurred, I remember my friend Dave told me he had courtside tickets down in New York City to see the Celtics play the Knicks. And I remember the day I got laid off, I said, what the hell? So I jumped in the car and I drove down there. But going down there, I was thinking to myself, well, I left the loan business and I gave up all my contacts to other people. And I have to kind of reinvent myself. I didn't really want to go back to it. I wanted to try something new. And, it was a tough time in my life, but I went back to the companies that I tried to sell to, doing this HR kind of product, and I saw Cedo. And I thought it was a really good opportunity, and they weren't really even hiring. And I remember calling my old manager, Kathy, and pretty much asking her to give me a job, and she didn't even know who the heck I was. When I called her, I said, I want to work for your company. And I said, she's like, who are you? And I go, why don't you check your email? My resume's in your email box, and let's talk about it. And they didn't get back to me for a few months, but I kept calling, and they gave me a shot, and so I'm in their debt.
So you called your old manager, Kathy, who was at, is that right?
Cedo. She was at Cedo.
So Cedo.
I never met Cedo. I never met Kathy before in my life. I just figured out that
I see what you're saying. Your old manager now, you called Kathy, you sent her an email. You didn't know her from anybody, but you said, hey, Kathy, I want to come work for Cedo. I've been a successful real estate broker and loan officer in the past, and I think I can do the same in the domain name industry.
Yeah, and I had some experience with domains a little bit. I mean, I had a few that I hand registered way back that are just pretty amusingly poor right now that I know, right? Terrible, but I was interested in it because someone actually offered me like $1,000 on one, and I ended up turning it down, but I regret it now. That's a different story.
Oh, and one
But
I'll ask you about, but we'll come back to that.
so I ended up, I just said, I think you should hire me. Through my ways of finding people at companies, is I figured out who might be my boss, and I did it at a few other companies. And when you want to hire a sales guy, I guess my advice is if you're looking for a sales job, is you try to figure out who that sales manager will be for you at a company, because that's the investigative side of sales, is you need to figure out the decision makers in the hierarchy of companies. So I called her and I asked her for a job, and they didn't really get back to me for a little while.
Yeah.
And I kept harassing them, and then they gave me a chance. And the rest is history. In about a year and change that I was there, I broke the world record. And I also, before that, I sold the highest.org name ever, which was poker.org, for $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
So I have two, which I'm really proud of both. But at the same time, I'm very grateful to Cito for giving me those opportunities.
Yeah. So you had hand registered some domain names that were your own personal property, and somebody had made you an offer. So did that made the connection between, I'm doing it in the physical real estate world, why not do it in the online real estate world?
Not quite. What happened was when I got laid off from the company, what I would do is I would sell their services to HR departments at JobFox.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back and I looked at all the companies that I tried to sell this product to, and I wanted to work for something like a new, non-established company or in an industry that I felt was cutting edge. And I looked at some other industries as well, but I saw domains, and that offer did come in. It kind of started to click with me, and that's when I said I'd love to get in this industry and have this opportunity, and that's how it worked.
So what was your, I don't ask typically a lot of emotional questions on these interviews, Jeff, but I'm trying to ask more because I think a lot of people in the domain name industry sort of ride a roller coaster of emotions. An offer comes in, it sounds good, the deal falls apart, you're at the bottom, you think your domain names are great, then you think your domain names are terrible, and you go through this roller coaster, and I think it's compounded by the fact that most of us are working on our own. We're not in a public office. We're, at home in the evenings or during the days. We're, just on discussion boards. What did it feel like when you were laid off from your job and you knew that you were a good salesperson, but when you reached out to Cito, they didn't return your correspondence for a couple of months, and you didn't have any jobs? Did it feel like maybe the domain name industry isn't for me at that time?
No, I don't think so. I think if you're a salesperson that has a lot of experience, you're going to realize you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes. And that day it wasn't quite a no, but it was kind of like who are you again, and why are you bothering me? And in defense of her, she has every right to say that, because I'd be taken a little off guard too. But it just means that you just keep trying,
Yeah.
and you could have a deal. I could have a deal today that's going to close for $50,000, and then the buyer walks away for whatever reasons, like a trademark issue, or I just got laid off too, and the company's going under. I mean, these things happen, and it's just part of life and part of sales. So I know, and I think what's good with any salesperson is confidence, not overconfidence, just confidence in yourself as a person, an individual, that you got yourself where you are today from your hard work, and hard work in sales always pays off. And the day that something bad happened to me, I knew I had to make a change, and I needed to go out there and do something about it. If I was going to stay at home and feel sorry for myself, then I'd still be at home feeling sorry for myself, and I wouldn't be in this position where I am today. So I don't know. I mean, I think just hard work, and when someone says no to you, I get no's every single day of my life in sales, but when you get that yes and the deal closes, that's the thrill that I love, and that's what I love about my business and my job.
Yeah. So you went from having to harangue Kathy at Cito in order to get, an interview to potentially work at Cito, getting the job, to closing the world record and closing poker.org for $1 million. How do you go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a year and a half? How is that possible that they would even hand you the sex.com deal to work on as the lead? I understand that it's a team effort, but as the lead when there's so many other brokers that were probably at Cito for longer than you.
Well, I think you're saying 0 to 100 miles an hour. I think the thing is with a good salesperson, and there are a lot of great salespeople at Cito, and there was a lot of good salespeople there when I started working there. I think you can teach a good salesperson the product, and you can teach the good salesperson about the product in the industry, and that only takes, in our business, I think it's not that complicated, especially coming from real estate and understanding contracts and just basics of contracts. I'm no lawyer. And then also the cold calling part and finding leads came that I learned at JobFox by just doing a lot of cold calling and just going out there and, excuse my language, just getting used to having my ass kicked by people saying, who are you and what the hell do you want from me, right? And being able to take control of the phone call, create value, and qualify people to say, yes, no. And, the yeses are great, the no's are okay, but the maybes will kill you. So if you can get rid of the maybes, and you can qualify leads and get people to make deals, or the people who don't want to make deals, you move on and keep going, right? So I don't know. I've always been at 100 miles an hour. I can't stop anything. Even my personal life, I'm always doing something. Yeah. So I'm always fiddling. I just don't lay on the couch and watch TV. I'm just not that kind of person. I just don't stop. So
why did you decide to leave Cito and go to Domain Advisors and become president of that organization?
I think there was multiple reasons. But I think my time at Cito was done. And again, I'd like to say I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I had there. But I think that after I sold Sex.com and I did get the opportunity to break the world record with them, I felt that my career was going to end there. Like there was no more opportunity for advancement there. And it was made pretty clear to me that I could have a comfortable living and make good money there as a broker, but that's probably what you're going to be 100 years from now. So I felt life's too short, and I said, what the hell, why not take a chance? And Tessa Holcomb, who I started Domain Advisors with, and Greg McNair, we got together, and Greg believed in me and believed in the ideas that Tessa and I had, and we got this going. And I said, what the hell, I want to try something for myself, and do it my way. And I did that for 2 years, and I got to say it was one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had. I think it's better than any master's program that I could take. I learned what it's like to write a check into the company on a bad month when we didn't make any money, and I learned what it's like to make a lot of money on good months, and we went through hard times and some good times and some great times, and I'll never forget it, and I'll always be grateful for them for working with me and letting me work with them. The whole team, not just those two people either. Yeah. All of them.
And so when you look back at Domain Advisors and you say, that you only had a certain, level of responsibility that you could grow to there, but you went to Domain Advisors because you could start up this business. What do you look back and say, that was my MBA, that was my master's, that, was better than, what specifically was it in starting up that business that left you with, something that's left you feeling that you accomplished something significant there?
I think when you join a company that's already established, they have accounting in place, they have PR in place, they have marketing in place, they have all these different things in place. And when you start your own business, and as blank as this room is, this is accounting over here. Wait, here's marketing. Oh, wait, that's me. And then over there, is PR. Oh, wait, that's me too. And I got to sell, and I got to get a team going, and I got to do all these different things. You can't turn and blame others and say, well, the site stinks. I hate these rules. And I'm saying I was like that. But you start to realize that it's you, and you're the one who's going to produce, and you're the one who needs to make this happen. And even if you don't have the skills to do it, you find them and you make it happen. Yeah. And there's no other way around it. And I think, I learned an immense amount And I made a lot of mistakes. It wasn't perfect, and it was great. I loved it.
So why move on from domain advisors to domain name sales and working with Frank Schilling now? What was different between the two opportunities? It sounds very similar from, a removed third-party perspective. You got to create the organization over at domain advisors, and you're creating the organization at domain name sales, wearing a lot of different hats, figuring out how to make a business run without a lot of overhead.
Well, I think there's a huge difference. And what ended up happening was I've been selling names for Frank and Vern for about 5 years. And I've always had a great relationship with them. They weren't just clients, they're friends of mine. And what ended up happening was just one morning, Frank, gave me a call and told me, and I knew what was going on over here. And he said he really wanted to build up the sales team and talked about the opportunity, talked about Uniregistry, the new extensions. I know the sales platform. I knew it inside and out. I actually helped give him some advice on it to make it better before I joined. And I just felt this opportunity was something that I just couldn't pass up. And I talked to my wife about it. And as hard as it was to move away from our family and our friends and our lives there, and I wasn't looking for a job when I was at Domain Advisors. I was completely happy there. But sometimes these things come, and sometimes you just got to go for it and say, what the hell? I feel like Domain Advisors is this unique and great boutique domain brokerage firm, and I would recommend them to anybody. But I feel like if this didn't work out, I might be able to do something similar to that again. But I don't think I'd ever have an opportunity to join working with a guy like Frank, who I've learned an immense amount of things from, and to see the growth and to see the opportunities that are coming up one after another every day. So I'm really excited about it. I love coming to work every day, and I think that's another good thing is everyone I work with loves coming to work every day, and that's an awesome environment to be in.
Definitely. Now, what's it like being a Boston kid moving to the Cayman Islands? That's quite a culture shock, I would think.
It is. It's quite a culture shock, but it's a beautiful place to live. It's very safe. I think a lot of people feel that it's similar to, say, the Bahamas or Jamaica, where if you leave the reservation, it's a little dangerous. But
right.
My wife will go for jogs at night, or I'll walk down the street at night. I've never felt unsafe, and the people here are wonderful, and the beaches I hear are great. And
you hear? You're not going
kidding.
out there jet skiing today after work?
I'm pretty tan. I'm pretty happy with that.
You do look tanner than me, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. No, it's an awesome place to live. I was telling a couple of my friends, they were asking me about it, that if my friends and my family were here, I would never think of home again. I'd be completely happy here. So it's a great place. Great place.
You mentioned earlier in the interview that you had a few domain names that you'd hand registered years back. Do you have a personal investment portfolio of domain names?
No, not really. I mean, I own a couple of random names, but I was never that's one of the things that actually I learned at CETO and brought through Domain Advisors, and I talked to the brokers here about, which I think is really important, is the fact that you don't go and buy as a broker. I feel that you kind of have this, and I feel that this is happening a lot in our business, where people are not letting others know, their clients know, if they're the buyer's broker, the seller's broker, a dual agent, or a seller, or a buyer themselves. Like, it's this big gray area. And I feel personally that if you're going to be a broker, you need to be a broker, and that you should let all parties know if you're who you're representing. And if I was buying and selling names regularly, that it gets a little bit questionable sometimes. And if someone comes to me and they confide in me about the budget they have, or, hey, I'm in the midst of a divorce, or I need money for a surgery or something, and I have to sell this name, well, look at me now. I'm saying, well, the best offer I could find you is 10 grand, and it happens to be from me. It just, I don't know. I just feel that it shouldn't be that way.
Right.
And I think buying something, if I were to have a side business or something like that, me making a seller aware that I'm a broker, but I'd like to buy this for something else is okay and fine. But me buying something for my clients, I don't know. I just wasn't. We never really were excited about that. They weren't excited about that at CETO. I wasn't excited about that at all at Domain Advisors, and we try to we're keeping that same philosophy here.
Yeah. When you become a licensed real estate broker or realtor, there's a whole ethics area that you have to test and make sure you understand, and rules that you have to follow. None of those rules, are requirements in the domain name industry. Do you think there should be some sort of overseeing body that specifies rules and ethics and, comes to an agreement like in the real estate industry that should be followed?
It's funny because I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this?
I can't read it, but I can see it.
All right. Well, someone just left there a little booklet that we use for training here. And the first page is broker basics. And the first thing we write is must act honestly and ethically in the best interest of the clients. So I wrote this and I copied this out of the Massachusetts real estate book that I had from before. So in going through the different types of brokers. So I think that there should be some sort of a licensing, but at the same time, what makes our industry so great is the lack of rules and regulations. And that this is, I feel, the last, me being biased as an American, the last American dream and the last, it's true capitalism. Right. And I feel that more industries should be this way. And I feel that it gives opportunities to so many people. I mean, look at Frank, look at all these other domain investors that some of them 20 years ago didn't have a job, they didn't have an opportunity, and they took something and they took a chance and they've become very successful business people, and it's only because of the lack of regulation. So if we want to start regulating, I think it's going to start hurting the industry, but at the same time it does need some help. But I think buyers and sellers can ask brokers certain questions that can get them away from some of the people that it might be unethical. Just like it, but even the licensed people in real estate can do unethical things. Right. It's such as life.
It does not prevent it. What due diligence questions would you recommend a buyer or seller ask a potential broker that they're interviewing?
I would ask them what they charge, and then anytime you're going to do any type of a deal, you make sure that you don't just bang it through escrow.com, but you have a legitimate contract where all parties are visible to everyone involved. Mm-hmm. And so what you're selling the name for, what you're getting for it, what the broker is getting paid. And there's nothing wrong with a broker making a living and making money, but why would they need to hide what they're making on it, right? And but at the same time, if the buyer, if it's a broker representing a buyer, sometimes a buyer doesn't want to become wants to remain anonymous. Mm-hmm. It's still good to be able to have all the terms on the table so everybody sees it. I mean, there's nothing worse than, I think, a broker that would haggle down a seller, calls himself a broker, and then he sells the name for 4 times more over here and keeps the difference for himself when he's potentially been hired by the seller to look out for his best interests. It's just, that's when the regulation should probably take place. But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, but if you ask the right questions, you can look out.
So you would ask questions like, what's your commission, and will you put, can you make sure that we have an agreement in place that identifies the buyer, the seller, the agents, the commissions that are involved, and how all the terms and conditions will take place?
Yeah, and it's very black and white in up front. And I mean, if you smell a rat in any way, then, if you're buying a domain name, then pick up the phone on the Whois and give them a call and ask what's going on. If that's what it takes. Doesn't mean you're going around the broker or trying to take anything from them. But if you don't trust the deal, or something bad's happening, try to find out. And I think that's one of the good things on our sales system is that if you were to use us as a broker, we allow the conversations to remain transparent. Mm-hmm. And you can see the back and forth between us and the buyer if we're representing you, and you can see where it's going, and you can see that we're going to charge you our commission, and that's it. There's no more to it. And it becomes more of a team. We work together with you as a team rather than us saying, okay, well, I got an offer of this, but really I got a little more in my back pocket. It's more like a team kind of a sale. You get more out of it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a couple questions about the domainnamesales.com platform. For anybody that haven't used it, it consists of 2 pieces. One is internettraffic.com, where you can sign up to have your domains listed as a parking page. And at the top, you can display a banner that says this domain name may be for sale, contact us. And then that leads potential buyers to domainnamesales.com to a specific landing page for that domain name, where potential buyers can submit their interest in buying the domain name. And when the lead comes through, your domain name sales platform records it and categorizes it and saves it for the domain name registrant and says, do you want to act on this yourself, or do you want to select one of these brokers to potentially broker it on your behalf? Did I get that right?
Yeah. Do you need a job? Because that was pretty good. That's very good.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do have a couple of domain names in the system, and I have received an inquiry or two. And I usually just say, I click the button that says, I'll take it myself, because I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you, what's going to happen if I say domain name sales broker it. So walk me through the process when I click the button, because I'll do it the next one that comes in. Domain name sales should broker this for me. What happens?
What would happen is it would actually go into a round robin rotation here, and it would go to one of our 12 brokers, and that broker will take that lead. They're going to look at the buyer, do a little bit of research on it, and ask you for a price quote. Mm-hmm. And when they ask you for a price, depending on the seller that we work for, some sellers want to hear what our opinion is as to what the value of the name is, and others would just tell us what they'd like for it. And then we're going to go back, and depending on where the person is, we have brokers that speak anything from Taiwanese, Chinese, Spanish, English, German, and a few other languages. Depending on where they're located in the world, they can call them on the phone and have a legitimate conversation in their native languages, or we can send them out an email and give them an idea of the price. And I think you also have to realize that on top of that, we do any type of an immense amount of follow-ups, and we feel that the majority of sales aren't from hitting them with the buyer with a price, because usually the buyer doesn't just say, "Okay, I'll buy it." It's not that beautiful or simple, right? It takes some massaging, it takes some working on it, it takes qualifying, and like I was saying before, you have to figure out the no's and move them aside, and the yeses, and go after those and really attack and stick with those and make those sales. And then offering a transparent and comfortable experience for you as a seller, mm-hmm. but most importantly for the buyer. If the buyer doesn't trust the process, doesn't trust the company, or most of all doesn't trust the broker, then they're not really going to confide in them or really try to really trust what the advice that our experienced brokers are giving, like explaining the value of domains, educating them, talking to them about the sales process. And when they're shaky on that, then they don't want to use escrow.com. They want to use their lawyer, and then it becomes a very long and drawn-out process where it could have been very simple and easy. So, there's a lot to it. And I'm very excited to say that we offer, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. phone support, Eastern Central Standard Time. We have an 800 number, an international number that we can put on all your domains. We have contracts that have been written by John Berryhill, so they're pretty damn solid. And then looking at our team, I was talking to Frank yesterday that we have just under 150 years of sales experience on our floor right now.
Wow.
So I think we're doing pretty good, and we're creating quite a formidable team. And we'd love to have our partners or anyone new join the site or give us a try and assign us as their broker, and we can show you what we can do.
So if I assign domainnamesales.com team as my broker, what commission rate do I pay?
12.5% of the sale amount.
Okay, and so you guys don't get paid unless a sale actually happens.
No way.
Okay.
No, we do not.
And you said that you use Salesforce.com. So let's say that a buyer comes in from,
I used to use it at Domain Advisors. I don't use it
now,
at Domain Name Sales.
Domain Name Sales is its own platform, right?
It's completely, yes, and it's completely tailored to our business. So Salesforce is a great tool, but it's made to fit. It's like a PC. It's made to fit 1,000 different kinds of companies.
Right.
This is made to fit. It's the Mac of our business. It's made to fit their operating system. It's to fit one thing, and that's all we need.
And when I sign into the system and I look at the status of smellycatfeet.com, which I own, I'm just kidding,
nice.
I don't. Will it actually show me when the brokers make telephone calls to the potential buyer?
Yeah, and actually that's a feature you can use yourself. Up in the top right corner, it'll show the person's name, their IP address. You can actually search their name on Facebook and LinkedIn. And then next to their phone number, if they decide to put it in, is a picture of a tiny little phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a no smoking sign with the phone, through a phone next to it. And if they answer the phone, you hit that one button without the no smoking sign, and that would log the call, and you can take notes. Then you can set a reminder. Okay, had a great call. He said we're looking to buy in 2 weeks. You hit OK. It logs that the call happened. If they don't answer, you hit the did not answer button, and then a pre-populated email will pop up, and it will say, "Hey, Mr. Siger, we missed you. When can we talk again? Blah blah blah." And then that'll send, and you can set a reminder to call 2 or 3 days later, or a week later, or however you want to handle it. So that's open to partners, but it's also for us, and we're sitting here 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Making calls. The system is made to incentivize our brokers to make phone calls, and it's a big numbers game. Constantly calling, following up, and the reminding system is just moving sales from each step in the sales process from beginning to close.
Yeah, and when I manage the inquiries that come in through the domainnamesales.com platform, I'm never quite sure if I'm doing it right. Like, are some automated emails going to go back out to the person at a certain point in time, and maybe they'll be stored? And I don't know. To me, it'd be like, I would be happy to have a broker just take it over. It's in the system already, and go run with it and try and close it for me. It sounds like that's well worth the 12.5%, I think you said, to do that. So let's talk about negotiation tactics for a few minutes, Jeff. As a broker, what's the difference between negotiating a high value and a low value domain name sale?
Nothing. Let's say $2,500 versus $25,000. No difference. None. The entire point is that you have to look at it proportionately. You could have a buyer come to you and say, I would like to offer you $7,000 for this domain, and you feel that that's a small amount of money. But to that person, he's a small business owner, and that $7,000 is every penny he or she has in their bank account. Mm-hmm. Versus the person who wants to buy a name for $100,000 might have 10 more million in his bank account, and that $100,000 isn't as important to them. So you have to negotiate, and you have to treat every deal the same. And buyers expect that kind of hand-holding, and sellers, that $2,500 sale could be the best name that domainer or client owns, and we want to make sure that deal happens, and it means a lot to them. So I want to make sure I get the most amount of money if I'm representing the seller that I can, or if I'm representing the buyer, I get them the lowest price I possibly can get out of the deal. And as a broker, and what I tell our brokers every day is create value. You have to bring value to the deal. Just being like a mailman, and if the seller says, I'll sell it for $100,000, and you're just saying $100,000 over here, not really calling them and talking about what it can do and adding value to the deal, then you're just a mailman. You're not a broker.
Right.
So you have to add value and do the best you can on no matter what the deal is.
So on the domainnamesales.com platform, leads come in, and I can give them to you to manage for me and take the commission on the closed sale. What if I own a domain name that I think is good, but no inquiries have ever come in? Can I proactively ask one of your domain name brokers to take that and call, the companies that I think might be interested in it to try and sell it?
Right now, we're not offering that service to do exclusive brokerage where we're calling into large companies or end users or investors or whomever at this present time where we would do that. And the reason is actually right now we have the luxury. We have over 1,000 inquiries every day coming in on Frank's portfolio alone, and then we have hundreds of other inquiries coming in from our partners. And we feel that focusing on these inbound types of leads has been very fruitful for us and has been great. Now, this is something that, as we grow the team further, we're definitely going to start doing more and more outbound work. But just at this present time, we're just not there yet.
That makes sense.
What I can say is there's a lot of cross-selling going on here, and that when you have 1,000 inquiries every single day, well, the weekends it trails off a little bit, but those are a lot of buyers. And those are a lot of people saying, I want to buy a domain name. And not all of them are legitimate. There's a lot of spam in there, but we don't make 1,000 sales a day. So if we get to work with you or whomever, we get to understand and know their portfolio. So if they inquire on this name and the price is too high and out of their budget, If we know your portfolio and what you like to sell and what you have, then I could always recommend something else. So we didn't technically put it on exclusive, but we're finding other options for people.
Sure.
And I think you're going to see in the very near future we're going to come out with a much better search, a much better way to search names on our site. That's on the way.
Great.
Make it easier.
How do you analyze what a particular buyer may be willing or able to spend for a given domain name?
Well, I think it really depends, and that's a good question. I think you have to ask the questions. I like to call them the questions that sell. So talking to somebody, you have to talk about the price, and it has to be within reality. And there are certain situations where we've inquired with sellers on the platform, and their expectations of domains are a little higher than others. Let's put it that way. And as long as I can justify the price with legitimate information that backs it up, you can qualify it enough where you can make them see the light, whether they like it or not, what the value of some of these domains are. And with our owned and operated portfolio and some of our partners, we've been offering financing. So it might not necessarily be this giant chunk of money they have to pay today, but you put down a little bit money, funds today, and then you pay over time. You can make a lot of names a lot more affordable. And it's really just about finding the budget that fits. And the budget still might be $100,000, but it's just not today. It might be over 6 months, a year, or 5 years.
So you'll validate the value of the domain, because it sounds like some sellers have very high valuations for you'll try and validate them. Then you'll go to the seller. You'll say, here's the price. Here's why I think it's a reasonable price. And then
You mean the buyer.
I'm sorry, you go to the buyer. Right. And then the buyer may say, well, I just don't have $25,000. All I have is $10,000. So you can either say, all right, it might be true and there's no flex on the domain name. So it's either a done deal or you break up the payments over terms.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's two sides to every deal. And, it's funny. There's a lot of people who value the price of domain names based on how much money they have. So it's not necessarily what the domain is worth. And others, have very high expectations for their names.
Right.
But I feel when you have a buyer that is educated and understands, and if you have a seller that is willing to price within the market, you can usually find some sort of middle ground. Some sellers don't want to do any financing. They only take cash.
Right.
Some are a little more flexible than others. And it's really just working with all sides to make a deal happen. And nobody wants to feel like they've gotten ripped off or gotten a bad deal. And that's a big part of it as well. And we deal with a lot of buyers who call and their opening offer is $100, and it'll be a $10,000, $20,000, or $100,000 name.
Yeah.
But after you talk to them, you start to understand where they're coming from, and you ask them for the same information that this person might have priced their name for at $100,000. Maybe you say, well, what information do you have that would make the seller see otherwise? Now, you're at someone at $100,000, someone's at $100. Come on, let's be real here. But a lot of the times that buyer doesn't really have a whole heck of a lot of information on that. They want to hear it from you, and when you let them know about it, maybe bring them to DN Journal and show them some of the sales. Yep. You talk about the industry, and you also talk about what it can do for their business and why their prices sway. It gets pretty easy.
Yeah. What are Jeff Gabriel's rules of thumb for valuing domain names?
My rules of thumb. Well, there's a lot of them. My first is I'd say a lot of it is a gut reaction where I read it and I think immediately, what could I do to make money on this? Because that's usually, I think of a domain as the door or the billboard for your business. It's your name, it's your identity. So you said stinky cat feed, right?
Yeah.
Was that what you just said before?
Smelly, stinky, same thing.
Whatever. So, I already forgot the name. Right, so I don't think it's long. I'd say it's long. It's hard to remember.
Right.
It's not that very easy to spell. Is it universal in many languages? Like I would say, one of the most perfect domain names ever, or that is out there, is actually I think yoga.com. Yoga is YOGA, 4 letters. It's a .com. What I love about it is it specifically goes. It covers the entire yoga industry. So there's not different ways of calling yoga.
Right.
I mean, there's different styles like Bikram or whatever, but you can sell videos, you can sell products, you can sell lifestyle foods and things like that. But the other most important part is in German it's yoga, in Chinese it's yoga, in English it's yoga. It doesn't matter. And then it's also never going to go obsolete. It's not like harlemshake.com or something like that. From there, I look at things like search volume, and just really how it rolls off the tongue, and if I've ever heard it in real life.
Yeah, so yoga's great. You think about it, and there's a ton of different industries. Is it a $500,000 domain, or a $5 million domain, or a $50 million domain?
It's a multi-million-dollar domain. Absolutely.
How do you know? Just by prior experience, because the letters, the industry, the search volume, you sort of.
All of it. That is something that I know that if I had ever had the opportunity to own a name like that you could build an awesome business on that name overnight.
What about Yoda? Y-O-D-A, the little guy with the long ears in Star Wars. How much is that domain worth?
It's probably worth a lot to Disney now that they bought him out, but I probably wouldn't want to buy that because there's only one Yoda to my knowledge, and that's that.
And they probably have a trademark or something on it, a copyright. What about Yoba? Y-O-B-A. It passes the radio test. It's 4 characters. How much is that one worth?
Well, I'll tell you. I'll actually give you a good example. We have on a payment plan the name called Yobu, yobu.com, and that actually means to call in Japanese. And I feel, again, that's 4 letters. That's a brandable. Names like that could go for as much as 75 to 100,000 into the 50,000s. I think names that haven't been, we call those brandables or brands, and they don't really mean anything. Well, they mean something in Japanese in this experience, but they're actually some of the hardest names to find if you wanted to be a catchy or trendy company. So it kind of led into what we did on our site. If you have a name, there's actually a button underneath the Add Domain Notes section in the domain name sales site called Brandable Domain, and you can check it off. So that's if you have a word like Yobu or Yobi or Yogi or Numi or whatever, that would be a cool name for a company that might not necessarily have a meaning. And those go for, someone can go for a lot of money. I think Domain Advisor sold Mojo at the beginning of the year, M-O-J-O, for $300K. So.
And that would mean something, so it's probably worth more if it means something versus Yosu or something like where it's just 4 letters that are happen to be pronounceable.
Yeah, but Mojo has a meaning, but not a very strong one because it's just a positive feeling, like Mojo. I got my Mojo back. But if you put it behind a company with kind of a trendy product, I think it'd be good. Like, there's a gentleman that asked me if I could sell Shout.com for him. I think for a PR firm, I couldn't think of a better name than Shout, right? Is it worth $500,000 or $300,000? I don't know. It might be a stretch, but Shout already has a definition. But as a brand, I think it'd be hard to find a better one.
What about keyword domain names like shoppingcart.com or onlineshopping.com?
I think they're great.
How do you price those?
It just depends on the quality. I mean, shopping cart is kind of broad, but the shopping cart service that you can purchase to put into your site that has good layers of security, those go for a lot of money. And having the right domain makes people feel comfortable. And those who are going to pay for that service, I think you have to have a good domain and to create high conversion rates and more sales. I think I wouldn't be surprised seeing a name like that sell in the hundreds of thousands.
Do you use valuation tools like Estabat.com to determine a value or back up your gut feel about a value?
I think Luke made an awesome product with Estabat, and I might tip my hat to him every time I use it. I use it. I look at it. It's just like a dot in the sky, but it's pretty amusing because some of the names we sell have a $600 Estabat valuation. We have a lot, and they sell for $30,000, $50,000.
Right.
I think it's good for certain things that are, but like you're saying, like going back to Yobu or any of these made up words, it's probably not very good at that. But shoppingcart.com, I'll bet you give you a pretty good price. Let's see what it is.
Yeah.
Go ahead while I'll look it up.
All right. So my next question is going to be around setting prices and how Frank Schilling has set prices. So I'll let you look that one up before I get into that one.
292,000. So
292,000 for shopping carts. So they're looking at the search volume, the cost per click of advertisers who are paying to be on a web search engine results pages with shopping cart as the search, and a few other factors like other sales and prior sales history of that domain name, things like that.
yeah.
So order of magnitude, you'd say it's probably about right?
I'd have to do some more research, but in 5 seconds of talking about it, yeah, I'd say we're
Yeah.
doing pretty good.
Do you go to other people also? Will you, text Frank and say, hey, Frank, I've got this domain name. I'm thinking about asking price of $100,000. Do you use other people in the industry to verify your gut instinct about a domain name?
Without a doubt. And I think if you don't do it, you're a fool to not talk to the people that are around you about your business. I
How many
mean,
people do you typically ask?
it depends on how strange the name is. There's certain situations where Frank, I'm lucky to work for Frank, who has a humongous portfolio, right? And he has a lot of Spanish names.
Yeah.
And I'll do the English translation of the Spanish name, and it doesn't really come out right. But there's a gentleman in our office who speaks fluent Spanish, and he'll be like, "Oh, that's one of the biggest festivals of the year." So then I would have never known that, and I probably would have put a valuation on that of like $3,000. But in reality, it's probably worth like 40 or 50.
Right.
So I think people in their customs and their culture, I think that helps. Talking to people about that. And just pop culture, and understanding different technologies. So I have no problem using Google, asking friends, calling people even outside of domain name sales. I have friends all over the industry that sometimes you have a laugh about them, how ridiculous they are, So it's
let's talk about business. Buy it now pricing, Jeff. Michael Birkins wrote a post on March 27th of 2013 this year that he posted on his own blog that Frank Schilling had set buy it now pricing on 35,000 domain names, with some of them as low as $4,999. And some of those domain names were winadreamdate.com, dogperfume.com, odhm.com, lettersofintent.com. Are all these 35,000 domain names still set with buy it now pricing?
They are, but it's not 35. It's 135,000.
135. Okay.
It's actually more like 138, and I think by June we'll probably be up to about 150,000.
Wow. So are those buy it now prices set on domainnamesales.com if I type it in, or is that through other third-party marketplaces like Cedo?
When you come to us and you make an inquiry, not they're only the 49.90 names, and the ones priced at $7,800 are buy it nows. But the other ones that all have prices on it, you just have to inquire, and then our brokers will give you a price. Mm-hmm. It's and then with a lot of the buy it nows are on Buy Domains and Afternic and Cedo as well, and they've been great. They've really been working well for us. So,
by setting buy it now pricing, what kind of lift have you seen in sales?
I think it's hard to tell by looking at that right now for us, but we plan on doing more of it because we've been adding more brokers. It's hard to tell, is it the buy it now, or is it the new brokers? Is it this or that? So we're kind of, if you want to check back in a couple of months, I can answer that question.
Okay. And when you say, is it the brokers or is it the buy it now? Is that because people will go to Afternic or Cedo, see it priced for $49.90, and then realize that, hey, if I contact domain name sales directly and talk to a rep, I might be able to negotiate it down? Is that what you mean?
On those buy it now names, that's pretty much the price.
Okay.
Some of the bigger names that we have with the price on them at Buy Domains and at Cedo, they can make an offer. I mean, it's at buy it nows, but they can make an offer. Some of them have a buy it now price of $200,000 on it, and you can make an offer. So
okay, if I run this list of names through Estabot, the highest value domain name is toydrives.com with a retail price estimate of $940. The median was californiadoctor.com at $470, and the lowest was winadreamdate.com at $0. How does Frank set the pricing of the domains in his portfolio?
What we did when we did this all the buy it now pricing was is we went back and we pulled every name that they've quoted a price on for the past since the beginning that he's been keeping records, and we looked at different. We compared the information from the time that they quoted the price till the present day, and we had percentages. And then we re-upped all those prices like there were new prices and tried it out as buy it now, or we repriced them. So we spent quite a few hours going over all of these names that had a price quote on it from the past, and checking them over, making sure they're still accurate, and trying it out and getting them out into the market. And we made quite a few sales with buy it now. Some of them been some of these 49.90, 7,800s, but we've also done a few that are 30, 50, 60 grand on a buy it now. So it's been great.
Yeah.
We're really happy with it.
So why 49.90? I know, if I go do searches on certain domains, I'll see the price set at 2188 or 1988, because I think Mike Mann wanted to do some testing and he set his domains to that pricing, and then everybody else in the industry followed suit. Why 49.90? Why 7,800 as price points for the two lowest tiers of domains in the portfolio?
Why not?
Yeah, 49.90 is better than 5,000.
And I'd
Sort of
take
like
that.
the sticker on a car.
Yeah, much cheaper, right?
Yeah,
that's a much better deal than I would never buy a domain name for 5,000 if I get it for 49.90, right? So there you go.
Gotcha. Let's see here. I went and looked up one of the domain names on Domain Tools just to see what the Whois information was, and it said that I could buy it now through Buy Domains with a link at the top for $7,800, although it was priced on Cedo at $49.90. Is there sometimes where you'll use one broker at a certain price because of the commission, or?
No, we have no favorites, and
No.
I think we changed some of the pricing on some of the 49.90s up to 7,800 this past week, and I think there might have been a little a delay in those price changes, but we told them both on the same day, and we upped some of ours as well. So no, there's no favorites. There's no playing anyone against each other. We don't play any of those games here. Like I was going back to the page right here, ethically and responsibly.
Yeah.
We want to make sales, and in the short term, you might win, like you were saying before, getting someone to go see the name on buy domains, leave them, come to us so we making the sale. Well, great. Wow, we won today. But buy domains is a partner of ours, and we plan on doing business with them for years. This one deal is today, and it's gone. So,
yeah.
And the people over at Cedo the same way. I consider them friends, and we don't want to burn them. It's just not the way you do business. And that's not how Frank does business. That's just not the way we do it.
I've heard a lot of people say that they'll turn over 1 to 2% of their portfolio domain names per year. Does that number hold true with Frank's 70,000 domain names as well?
I don't know. I haven't been here long enough to tell you that.
Okay.
And I think over the past few years it's different. Now that we're getting a huge team here and really trying to make more sales, I could probably give you a better answer in the near future.
All right, fair enough. And you receive 1,000 inquiries per day. So that if you had, roughly 10 people, and I know you said you had about 13 and looking to grow it, each person is dealing with 80 inquiries per day coming in?
Pretty much.
And are you able to get through the backlog of inquiries that come in, or do they just continue to build up and then you need to come in on Sunday and knock them down again?
Well, I think a good salesperson's job's never finished, right? And there's never a day when you can come into work and say, I don't have anything to do. So even if we shut the leads off, a good salesperson's going to find old leads, old opportunities, always be digging back. And, out of those 1,000 leads that come in, there's a good portion that is spam, and there's some bad stuff too. So it's not all good, legitimate buyers. It's about sorting it. So you kind of just get rid of some of those. So I would say every day, I would say our brokers get about 20 or 30 really good leads, and the rest I'd probably, so it's about 400 or 500 good ones. So about half are either they don't know what a domain name is, they don't, they're confused, They come to our park pages and they want to sign into it, or create an account, or they're looking for love or something like that. But it's great.
All right, Jeff. Here's the last question that I have for you, Jeff. We've got thousands of new TLDs coming out over the next few years. Frank's Registry applied for 54 of the new GTLDs, like .art, .auction, .audio, .auto, .diet. What are some other .guitars, .gift? How do you see those new TLDs changing your life as VP of Sales, and what do you think will happen to the valuation of .coms, .net, .orgs, and all the other traditional TLDs?
Well, as a vice president of sales, it gives me a new opportunity to sell a hell of a lot more different types of names. And I'm really excited to have that opportunity and work with some of our other partners that we've been talking to about it, and then also have our brokerage team start selling these. And it'd be great to be able to sell one of Frank's generic, say, .coms, and then within the package, you give them 4 or 5 other extensions along with it, and that way they could target different, try different things or protect their brand. Mm-hmm. So, I think in that regard, it's very exciting. I think that's one of the main things that got me to want to come down here and change my life and walk away from a life that I loved and I was happy with. But what I was saying to you before, and I think anyone who has even just a handful of names will get people who come through these for sale links, and if you have your phone number on there as well, who call and still don't understand that it's a park page and that they can't log into it. I was given the opportunity to sell the domain card.com last year, C-A-R-D, and I actually had someone call in our company voicemail at Domain Advisors and tell me he wanted to apply for a credit card and left his name, address, and social security number for a credit card. So if the common public, and I consider myself a creature of habit as well, aren't quite understanding, I think it's going to take a number of years. If they still don't understand parking or really the whole, if it's shoes.com, why aren't there shoes on there, right? They don't understand that it's not quite that way yet. I think it's going to take a little more time to change the human habits, and I think they are going to be successful, and I think, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And I would say that these are going to become, I think .com will end up losing value in the long term. For the long term would be in many years, but in the short term, .com is, I guess the analogy I give, if you and I were in the Congo and we needed to get out of trouble, I compare .com to, I guess, U.S. currency. You whip out Ben Franklin, and someone's going to grab it, and they can say, "Okay, I'll help you out." But I have Canadian money that I use now. It's worth 20% more than the U.S. dollar. If I took out the Canadian 100, the guy's going to go, "What the hell is that?" So I feel like with .com, I think it's very similar that for that period of time, that the value of .coms is going to still, whether or not it's still going to be the go-to, it's still going to be the most trusted, and I really don't see any real changes that in the near future. In 10, 20 years from now, maybe, not a definite.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if we're in the Congo, I'm going to bust out my Bitcoin application and text some Bitcoins to somebody or something. There you go. I don't know. I don't even understand Bitcoins.
No, me neither.
All right. Well, if you have questions for Jeff, please post them in the comments below the video, and we'll ask Jeff to come back and answer as many as he can.
Sure.
Jeff, if someone wants to reach out to you, say thank you for coming on the show, thank you for sharing your tips about negotiation, about valuation, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
They can call me. They can call our 800 number. I won't give them my Cayman number. It might cost them a few bucks, but our number is 1-800-818-1828, and just hit extension 8, and you can talk to our receptionist and get through to me there, or you can email me at Jeff, Jeff, at Domain Name Sales.
Excellent. Jeff Gabriel, Vice President of Sales at DomainNameSales.com. I want to be the first to thank you for coming on the show, sharing your knowledge about domain name brokerage, and thanks for being a Domain Sherpa.
Hang on, wait. Domain Sherpa, the blogger of the year. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. It's been my pleasure. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.
Have a nice day. Bye.